Right, Keith, we've gone through the nuts and bolts of the deal, but what everybody watching wants to know is, what does this mean for Alexander Isak?
I knew you were going to ask me that, Mike. It's the first question I think the fans of most other clubs would want to know off the back of this. And what I've been saying about this situation now for Newcastle and Liverpool is this is the dominoes beginning to fall. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that Alexander Isak definitely moves to Liverpool, because, of course, Liverpool still need to make a Premier League record bid that was higher than the £110 million offer they made last month. And of course, Newcastle still need to make sure they get Nick Voltemad signing over the line. Yes, he's on his way to the northeast. I'm expecting him to land at Newcastle Airport later on this evening and undergo his medical tomorrow. But of course, that deal has not been finalised yet, and Newcastle will want to ensure that that deal is done and complete, and Voltemad is in the building, signed and sealed, before they allow Alexander Isak to go. But I'll refer you back to the statement that came out from Newcastle United 9 days ago in retort to Alexander Isak's social media post. And they said then that the conditions of a sale have not been met and they're unlikely to do so. Now, that has changed, hasn't it? Because Newcastle are close to signing Nick Voltemad. They've got that agreement in place there with Stuttgart, a package of £65 million, 60 plus, so 68.5 plus 4.5 in add-ons. So they're close to doing that. That, I think, moves the goalposts as far as Isak is concerned. Now, look, Newcastle still want to get another striker in, and I think they will try to do that before they allow Isak to move to Liverpool or till they listen to offers from Liverpool. But what I would say is the fact Newcastle are closing in on one, that makes it increasingly likely that Isak moves to Liverpool. I don't say it's a definite, but because Newcastle have got one striker in, it makes things a bit more smooth for that process. So look, my understanding is that there's pretty much been a private understanding at the club that Isak is likely to go, given his conduct over the last few weeks, but they were not going to sanction it until they got in at least one, potentially two replacements. Voltemad, if they can get it over the line, is one, and of course they're still looking for a second one. I think there is a situation where he could be allowed to go with just Voltemad, but I think in Newcastle's ideal situation, they'd want to get one more striker in before allowing Liverpool to talk to Alexander Isak and that deal going through for what would be, of course, a Premier League transfer record. All
right, Keith, they want another striker. Is that other striker going to be Johan Wissa or Jurgen Strand-Larsen?
Yeah, look, I think it's a lot more likely that it's Johan Wissa at this stage. Now, of course, as you know, Mike, the transfer window is moving quickly. Things are changing by the hour, by the day. I mean, none of us were talking about Nick Voltemad this morning. I'm aware that he's a good player. I've seen what he's done for the Germany under-21 team. We know that Bayern Munich tried and failed to sign him on multiple occasions this summer. And he's clearly a player that Eddie Howe likes. But things are changing. This wasn't a name that was even on the agenda. We woke up this morning and we're talking about Newcastle placing a third bid for Jurgen Strand-Larsen at Wolves. But Wolves' stance has always been Strand-Larsen is not for sale. We need him to help. They don't have a replacement. And I think Newcastle have looked at it and thought, this is going to be too difficult a deal to do. We've had two offers for Strand-Larsen, the first 55 million, the second 60 million pounds. Both of them have been turned down. They've been told pretty much he's not for sale. They could keep knocking at that door and be left with no one. So they've turned their attentions to Voltemad. He's a similar sort of player to Strand-Larsen, you know, big, tall, imposing striker. Voltemad, 6'6". I think Strand-Larsen's maybe about 6'4". You know, they're big, towering target men. So I don't see Strand-Larsen coming in as an addition to Voltemad. However, Johan Wissa is a completely different sort of player, as we know. Diminutive, 5'9", quick. He's a runner, runs in behind, and Newcastle still have an interest, and they have done for the best part of the last 6 weeks for him. Brentford looking to bring in a replacement of their own. They've failed to do that so far, but my understanding is Newcastle's interest is still there in Wissa, and I think if they were able to get Voltemad and Wissa over the line, which would pave the way for Isak to leave, that would actually still be seen as a really positive situation given where they were at the start of the week and the saga that surrounded Alexander Isak. So look, Newcastle could end up getting two good players out of this. Yes, they're losing a world-class striker in Alexander Isak, but it's a world-class striker who essentially are down-tooled, and you're getting one, potentially two new hungry strikers who want to play for the football club.
Alexander Isak, gentlemen, does he move before the deadline? Michael?
Yes, I think he does now. It's a huge deal for Newcastle happening tonight. I think they're looking for Johan Wissa. That might just pave the way. However, it's still got to be big money, around £150 million. Whether Liverpool have looked at Monday and thought, OK, we score goals, but we're conceding a few, and they maybe look to the defence. But I'll go with yes.
James?
I think he will, but we're still waiting for a bid, and there hasn't been a bid from Liverpool for over 3 weeks. So whilst things are moving towards a situation where Newcastle are preparing for Alexander Isak to depart, whether or not they had reassurances they will get the money from Liverpool, we wait to see whether they're in talks right now with Liverpool.
Is there time? There's 3 days. It's not long, is there?
There's still time. I think they can wrap up personal terms quite quickly because Alexander Isak clearly wants to join Liverpool, and he'll be on more money at Liverpool than he will be at Newcastle. There is still time for this to happen. Things can accelerate really quickly, but you thought maybe Liverpool would act immediately after that game on Monday. We're sitting here on Thursday evening, and as we understand, that contact isn't there between the two clubs, but things can move really quickly, especially in the final 3 days of this window.
Mark Guéhi's highly anticipated move to Liverpool is now nearing completion, with multiple reports confirming that the Crystal Palace defender has been officially cleared to travel to Merseyside for his medical. After weeks of speculation and negotiations, Liverpool have taken decisive action to wrap up the deal, having already reached a full agreement with Crystal Palace for a fee believed to be in the region of £35 million, including performance-based add-ons. The medical, expected to take place within the next 48 hours, will be the final step before Guéhi is formally unveiled as a Liverpool player. Behind the scenes, personal terms were settled earlier in the process, indicating that the player has been fully committed to making the switch to Anfield for some time. Guéhi, 24, has been one of the most consistent and composed centre-backs in the Premier League over the last 2 seasons and was heavily courted by several top clubs, including Arsenal and Manchester United. However, Liverpool's concrete interest, clear project under new manager Arne Slot, and immediate need for defensive reinforcements made the club his preferred destination. Sources close to the situation say the player was impressed by Slot's long-term vision and the opportunity to step into a squad undergoing a strategic rebuild, especially after the departure of Joel Matip and sale of Jarell Quansah. With Ibrahima Konate and Joe Gomez facing persistent fitness concerns, the need for a reliable centre-back has been clear, and Guéhi's Premier League experience makes him a near-perfect fit. The £35 million fee represents a calculated investment for Liverpool. While Crystal Palace had initially hoped to secure closer to £45 million, they were ultimately pressured to negotiate due to Guéhi's contract expiring in 2026 and the player's desire to move on to a Champions League club. Liverpool, known for their structured and value-driven transfer approach, are believed to have worked swiftly behind the scenes to beat out competing interest and move ahead of the deadline. An official announcement is expected shortly after the medical is completed, and Guéhi could be in contention to make his Liverpool debut within days.